So everybody already knows my idea. So topic research, I'm going to be looking into suicide, drug use, mental health issues and disorders, sexual trauma and its effects, and aftermath of suicide on loved ones. All lovely topics. Does anyone have any ideas of anything to watch, any documentaries, movies that kind of come to mind when I say those topics? No?
Say them again.
Suicide, drug use, mental health issues and disorders, sexual trauma and its effects, and aftermath and suicide on loved ones.
I think there's a lot on YouTube, YouTube has a lot of people's stories, especially as well like TikTok. I think there's a lot of people on there who go on to share their story. So I feel like I can't obviously think of any specifically, but I know that if you do go on YouTube and you literally search down like recovering drug addict or something, it's like interviews or like there's definitely things out that I think with your topics, I think it is something that is talked about quite a bit. I think you're quite lucky in that sense.
Yeah.
People's experiences, and it's not something that not a lot of people go through, I feel like. So I don't think you'll struggle with finding people's experiences.
Within those topics, so say suicide and drug use and things like that, what is it you're planning on looking at more specifically? So if we were to break down those topics, what are you going to look into? So say with suicide, it could be a case of why people do it, or facts and figures in terms of how many people are doing it, or is it a problem that's increasing? So what's your plan in terms of the topic and breaking down those different elements?
Well, obviously with suicide, we'll be looking into why people do it, the facts and the figures, how the lead up can really kind of determine what's going to happen, and then obviously the aftermath of somebody committing suicide and the effects of it.
Can you look at as well, like not just the event itself, but sort of like that lead up and the masking and things like that? Because like I always remember being told that quite often before something like that happened, the person themselves would seem really happy because they'd made a decision as to what they were going to do, and they felt like a weight off their shoulders. So like, whilst I understand you're telling a person's story, having that contextual information around it will help to raise the awareness as well. So you're educating people about it as an issue by looking at Izzy's life as the focus.
Yeah. So you put my exact thoughts into words. Does anyone else have any ideas, or
I'm trying to think of any like similar documentaries or like things that are out there that are kind of like what you want to do with Izzy's story.
What about with your target audience and your sort of style? What kinds of things is it that you're researching into for that?
So I'm going to be looking at what age group struggles with mental health issues, drug use and suicide ideation the most. And that's going to kind of be, even though my target audience is predominantly 16 to 25, I'm still going to be looking at what age group is most likely to deal with these issues, what platforms my age group are most likely to watch my production on. So probably mostly really Netflix, YouTube and TikTok. So those are going to be, well, YouTube and maybe TikTok if I am brave enough to post it, but obviously not Netflix.
Amazon Prime maybe.
Amazon Prime as well, maybe Disney Plus, but I kind of feel like mostly really Netflix if I'm doing it as just kind of a couple of things. and survey questions asking my target audience if they've ever struggled with the above, which is mental health issues, drug use, suicidal ideation, what they're most likely to watch my documentary on.
I was going to say, have you looked in the BBC guidelines of like what can and can't be shown on camera and what can and can't be talked about? Because your topic is quite a touchy subject, obviously, and I think there needs to be the research within the guidelines, because if you don't meet those guidelines, you can't really put your production out there. So you need to make sure that as much as you're trying to tell the story as best as it can be and how as realistic as it was, there still needs to be that element of what can and can't be shown.
Yeah.
I think that's a good point, because there is restrictions on journalism and reporting of suicides as well, in terms of the amount of detail they can put in as to how it was done, because of the impact it can have on influence others, essentially.
Yeah.
And it's seen as like not
know you
wanting to
said-
give ideas.
Oh yeah, I'm not gonna go into like how she did it, but I'm just gonna go into why she did it and spread awareness about kind of like just about mental health and just spreading awareness about that. I'm not giving anybody ideas to use drugs. It's going to be very, very anti-drugs, and I'm also going to go into the effects on sexual trauma and abuse.
There's a song that you could listen at. It's called Violet's Tale by Ren. It's like very similar to like drug misuse and like suicide. And I think if you listen, and it's like it's less musical than it is like a story. It's more storytelling. So if you could listen to that, I think that'll help.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have anything to say? No? Okay. Thank you very much, everybody.